All righty, we are here. This is KMKanDrum Q&A with KMKanDrum, and this is part two with Mike Drop Drum Covers. Mike, how you doing?
Great, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. We went almost 2 hours the last time, and I didn't get to ask all the questions that I wanted to. So we're gonna do a part two, and I'm gonna ask you some more questions. And we were talking just a little bit before we started this, um, off air or whatever you want to call it. And I want to talk about all the stuff that we were talking about then too, just so our audience can get the full gist of what we were talking about. I don't think we did mention one thing about drums, but pretty much for the first 5 or 10 minutes or so, we didn't really talk about drums at all, huh?
No, no, just like what's going on in our lives and stuff like that. So,
But the one thing that you did tell me about the drums, why don't you let everybody know what's going on?
okay, well, this is, I guess you could say it's like 35 years in the making. This has been a goal of mine since I was a kid, but tomorrow or the day after, I'm expecting to receive my Thomas Star Classic drum kit. It's a walnut birch and in piano black. So
Nice.
this is, it's easily the nicest drum kit I've ever owned, and I'm really, really super excited. I'm like kind of like little boy on Christmas morning excited. I already started tearing apart the other one, trying to get ready, and but I'm very excited. I'm very excited to finally, have a top end Tama drum kit.
Cool. Yeah, I think you'll probably have gone through maybe a cover or two by the time this thing is out. I'm planning to have it out on the 22nd. I know this is stuff that
Okay.
the audience is probably like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
But yeah, you'll probably have it out. But I just think it's cool. My very first DW was a piano black when I was a teenager, and I was an idiot and sold it. So when I moved to this place, and I didn't know the condition of my drums from the flood that I had, I went and bought a DW Design Series. This thing right here, that's set up right here, that's piano black as well. So piano black is my favorite. So yeah,
Good
awesome.
classic.
Yeah, very cool. I'm happy for you, man. I can't wait to see that
Thank
thing
you.
set up.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. Then I'll have to EQ it and everything like that. But I'm excited. I'm excited. So
Cool, man. What are the how many pieces?
it's a 5-piece shell pack. Two up, two down, and then a 16 by 22 kick. I think it's 8 by 10, 9 by 12, 12 by 14, and 14 by 16.
Yeah, that's
So
exactly the same as this thing right here. Cool.
awesome, cool. That seems like a pretty, I don't almost universal kind of dimensions. I feel like, and it's perfect. I mean, you can cover so much, range with a kit like that. You can play just like really any style. So
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, this thing, um, what's my thing is I tune them up and I don't even touch it. So, you know, you've probably seen a bunch of my covers. I cover all kinds of genres,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I don't ever, the only time I'll tune the anything is the snare drum.
Mhm.
Like sometimes, like if the song calls for a low fat snare, I'll tune it that way. If it calls for something tight and high, I'll tune it.
Good.
That's the only thing that I tune. The only like, with the bass drum, the toms, I never tune, and they always seem to sound good no matter what music I'm playing. So I'm guessing that your set is going to be pretty similar.
You know what, and I would have to say that is also pretty much my experience. I find like a kind of like I guess you could call it like a sweet spot, and then it seems like they fit in, they sound good pretty much, everywhere. So I'm hoping to have that kind of, luck going forward with this. I mean, I would expect some aspects of it to be um, maybe a little bit easier to dial in or something, just because of the higher quality of the materials, the construction, and everything like that. So at least that's what I'm hoping for. So
Cool. So I when people start talking about like different wood types or whatever, I'm not one of those guys that nerds out on wood type. I think these are maple. See, I don't even know what
Mm.
what this is. You mentioned that it's a birch shells. Do
Walnut
you
birch.
know
Yep.
if it's gonna what kind of sound it's supposed to sound like?
Well, like Tama, uh, or at least Sweetwater, I guess, has when you're browsing and reading up on it, there's a link to a YouTube link where somebody's playing some stuff on it, so you get a good idea of what a nice produced sound you can get from it. Um, I, a lot of times if I'm playing on someone else's kit or the house kit or something like that, I'll ask, do you know what it's made out of? And half the time, people don't. That's always been uh me when I was like 13 and I was getting catalogs from all the companies and stuff, and I just sit there and and I'd read about every line and so I started becoming interested in the woods. um how big of a difference will I be able to tell? I'm not exactly sure, because this is really like my first high-end kit, but I do know, like, from when I was younger and having like a CB 700 or something, where the shell was like a fiber wood kind of glued, and then graduating to like a poplar kit or something like that. The I feel like the upgrade in sound was noticeable from that, from one to the other. So hopefully it's a similar, kind of step forward. I had always wanted maple for years and years. Um, again, probably just because that's what, Lars was using and stuff. But when I started reading about the different tonal qualities and like with the walnut birch mix, it's, the walnut is supposed to give it like a nice attack, a nice punch, but the birch is warmer and mellower, so it kind of softens out I guess the bottom end. And you know, I felt like that kind of suited my personality. And then, of course, not to mention, though, there's also a heck of a price difference between a maple kit and, you know, so I decided, you know what, this is the one I wanted to go with. So, uh, I mean, I've been kind of watching it for a while, trying to talk myself out of it for a while, you know what I mean? But,
Yeah.
finally it's just like, nah, this is, again, life is short.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I've wanted one for this long, so God, it's got to feel good to have one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, if it feels right,
Yeah,
it just
yeah, man. Well, I've just kind of, I've always been a big believer. Like, if the universe is talking to you, listen.
yeah, totally.
So,
Cool. It's cool that you mentioned yeah, just like going for it, life is short, because that's exactly what we were talking about before we started rolling this
mhm.
camera here. And yeah, I mentioned that this past weekend I went to a funeral for one of my friends, and yeah, I just wanted to get your thoughts about life in general, and because in part one we did mention um, some of the things that happened to you, and I guess what is your outtake on life? What are you? And I think this is one of the questions that I wanted to ask. So I'll just kind of condense everything together. Um, in the job related questions, one of the questions is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I think uh, if I may, when you're thinking about that answer, kind of think about how your philosophy of just like, at any point, we can be gone. So taking that into consideration, sometimes, like in 5 years, you can have this grand plan. Like you could be
Mm,
saving, 80% of your money and only
yeah,
spending 20% of your money. And in 5 years, you get, this big lump sum of money. But what if, you know, what if you die? Like all that money is it's gonna be like,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, it'll probably
And
go to relatives and whatnot, but um,
right, but you don't get to enjoy the fruits of your labor either. Um,
yeah,
matter of fact, my wife and I were just talking about this, because she was also kind of, telling me, just go ahead and buy it, just get it, And I feel like, balance is, it's a delicate thing and it's difficult to find, but I feel like it's the key to pretty much, everything, I guess. Balance in the universe, balance in your soul, balance, balance in your mind. Um, so I'm a big believer in happiness return, especially like, considering finances. Yes, you need to save. Yes, you need to be prepared for emergency. Yes, you need to plan for your future. I mean, because you want to be prepared to live to be 100. You know, but by the same token, you're living now too. What I mean? And because it could all just end literally in a second from now, uh, you gotta enjoy your time too. It's not all about toil. What I mean? It's also about enjoying the fruits of your labor. So I feel like if you find a good balance, where yes, you're preparing for the future and stuff like that. Everyone wants to retire. Um, but you're also making sure that you're happy, your family is well taken care of. Um, like raising children, you spoil them to a certain extent, what I mean? Then you make them kind of want something for a while, then you spoil them again just to, you know, to to balance things out, what I mean? So do that with yourself too. So yeah, it just because it could all just disappear in an instant, take some chances, take some risks. Um, and like I said, I'm not afraid of failure. I'm afraid of not taking that chance. I'm afraid of not trying. Um, like I said, I'd rather fall down, face, flat on my face, and then just get up and be like, okay, well, try this then, and then just, you know, keep at it, because that's a resounding, step in the. I think we talked about the iceberg, the 90%
Mhm.
below the water. Tenacity is huge, um, but you can learn to get a lot of the joy in the process. I mean, the hard work sometimes is fun, and we're lucky. I'm lucky. You know, I pour so much and spend so much time and put all this hard work into something that I absolutely love, and I'd be doing it no matter what.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I feel lucky because it's kind of, I mean, you get some good cardio doing it, I mean?
Mhm.
So, uh, my buddy, my guitarist buddy, and he's impressive. He jogs like 6.5 miles every day. It's crazy. And I'm like, well, I mean, I'll sit down and jog about a mile or two here.
Yeah.
But so yeah, so I mean, I'm really lucky. So the hard work, I'm lucky to be having this hard work. Um, it's these are good problems to have. What I mean? So it makes it easier to pour yourself into it and to keep your nose to the grindstone. And when you do have just a little bit of success, man, is it all worth it? And that feeds you and keeps you working harder, to try and get to the next step. So in 5 years, uh, I would love to say that I would have a much bigger successful channel. Um, maybe even conducting interviews of my own or something. But I feel like the stepping stone goals are really important. So it's nice to have like a vague, maybe not, I don't want to say it's this or bust. What I mean? I don't want to put any kind of expectations on myself. So in 5 years, I could be doing exactly what I'm doing right now. Less than 100 subscribers, and still doing the same thing. And you know what? I'd still be happy. Because this is the process is what I'm enjoying. So
Cool. Yeah. I mean, I say the same thing too. Like there'll be times where I don't see that much progress on my channel, and I'm like, man, I wonder why. And it's easy
Yeah,
to compare yourself to other channels, especially the ones that are growing, the ones that like if you for me, like I feel like I should be right there with these guys, growing with these guys. So it's easy to like try to compare
mm,
your channels with other channels, especially ones that are, taking off, and yours is like kind of plateauing or not going anywhere. But at the end of the day, it's the same thing. You have to realize and kind of take a little bit of perspective and just be like, hey, I'm still here. I'm still
yes,
breathing.
yes,
I get to play this wonderful instrument and share it with this wonderful community. And
yes, yeah,
yeah, so it's easy. It's easy to like get jealous or wonder why, what's going on, what are you doing wrong or whatever. But and that's healthy, healthy for your channel, because it keeps you, I guess not. I guess it keeps you fresh. It keeps your mind going. It keeps
right.
you like wanting to like strive for that. But it shouldn't be everything. Like that. For me, at least, it's a small percentage. I do want my channel to grow, but if I just keep doing what I'm doing and not turn it into a job, that's like the main thing for me is as long as it doesn't turn into a job where I have to do things like right
Right,
now,
right,
everything that I do with my channel, I want to do it.
right.
So that's, I think, the main thing is as long as I keep wanting to do things for the channel and I do them, and if I don't grow, whatever, I'm still having fun. But if I have to
Mm.
start working and actually turn this into a job in order to grow it, I don't think it'll be worth the growth.
Yeah, I would have to stop and really think about that too. But that's far enough into the future yet to where I mean I'll have fun getting to that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Uh,
because I there's obviously there's drummers on YouTube out there that do this for a living. Some of the people that come to mind are the Christina Shiano. I think that's how you say her name. She's a YouTube cover drummer. There's a good amount of them. Like I think Luke Holland, I think he started as a YouTube cover drummer, and now he's like playing with bands and whatever. Um, there's a
cool.
bunch of them. So, but I know that like they're at the level where they have a set, they have a crew, and I don't, like I don't think I would even want that. Like if my channel grew to like these people's level where you have like 1 million subscribers and everything is like perfect, and you have to go to a set to record your I love just being able to come downstairs
Yeah,
and
right, right.
play whenever I want to, no pressure. Like if it takes me 10 hours to do a cover, I'm not paying, you know 10 people 10 hours worth of work to get a cover. Like there's no
Right.
pressure. If you have a crew, you have to like perform and get it done as quick as possible so that you're not like spending all this crazy money paying this whole crew. Like that's like crazy to me. I would never want it to be that level.
You know what, and I've kind of come to a similar kind of realization lately, to where it's like obviously when you're the big rock star, the Taylor Swift type of thing, it's a totally different world, and people think like, oh, you're a rock star, or you're a famous musician, or I mean a professional musician, so obviously you're wealthy, and it's like, well, I mean that's not always the case with the middle tiered artists, I mean, because like you talk about, like what if you had a set and if you had people working for you that you've got to get this done so you can all get paid, um you know that's not like a steady paycheck, you know what I mean? uh and it sounds exciting, um or like touring and all the world travel and stuff like that. It sounds exciting, but man, it would be really exhausting, I'm sure. And then like you said, let's say nobody likes this album you just put out, I mean, things change pretty quickly for you, and it's a cutthroat industry.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's like I said, it sounds exciting, but is it really, uh, worth the risk, especially for dads, I mean,
Hmm.
and stuff like that, because it's not just us anymore, I mean? So yeah, that like I said, it'd be cool to have that problem, I suppose, to have to make that decision, but I don't think it would be an easy decision.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just to me, it's like even because I was watching this past weekend, there's a guy that has a video of him. He's a drum tech for Luke Holland. That's why I had Luke Holland in my
Okay.
mind. Um, so he's sitting in the bus, kicking back, waiting for his turn to like go out there and put the drum set together. It's very interesting video. Um, but his day is so long. I've had the pleasure of being a stagehand, and you get to like I was a setup and um, I helped assist one of the camera guys for this band called Local Natives. They played a show in Williamsburg, New York, and so the crew had to be at the Williamsburg Hall Music Hall, or I forgot what it's called, at like 7 o'clock in the morning. We didn't leave till 1 p.m. the next or 1 a.m. the next morning, day or whatever. So that's and I was just like a sub. I was called in to like help my friend owns the business. He needed some help. He called me. He was like, "Oh, you want to make like $600?" And I was like, "Okay, sure."
Yeah,
So
right.
get there at 7 o'clock. Start loading in all the gear into the amphitheater. Uh, a lot of it is sitting around um, because like you help bring the gear in, and then a completely different team sets everything up, and then you wait for your turn to do your job or whatever, and then at the end you help take all the gear down. So it's after the show. The show ends at like 12 o'clock. Takes another hour and a half to tear everything down. So a lot of it is like waiting and whatnot, but when it comes to your time to do your job, it's a lot of work, and it's just a long day. And these guys do it every single day.
Right.
And I'm like, oh man, there's no way. So I was watching this guy. He's a drum tech. Um, and it's the same thing. He's got to be there early. He's got to stay there the whole show. Make sure Luke Collins got everything he needs. If a snare drum breaks, he's got to be right there. All that kind of stuff. And then at the end, Luke Holland, he's gone. he's
Yeah, yeah,
partying and whatnot, and this guy's got to like, clean all the cymbals, check all the drum heads, tear everything down, and by the time he's done with that, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, and he's got to do it all over again the next day, and it's just like,
yeah.
oh,
Wow.
it's so much work. I just don't. Now being a dad, it to me it just wouldn't be worth it. If I was like 20 something and I had no
Right,
responsibilities, then yeah, it might be pretty fun.
right.
But yeah, now it's just like,
Yeah, yeah. No, like I said, it would have to be a pretty sweet deal to get me to really, think about it. And I'm not planning on anything like that. So.
yeah. All right. Well, let's see. I want to make sure I don't. Oh, okay. Do you have any mentors in your life, whether it's drums or just life in general?
Oh, well, I was raised by my grandparents. So I guess I kind of, it gives you maybe a little different perspective. My grandpa was a polio survivor.
Hmm.
So he was born in 1923. So he was actually in the army during World War II. He like owned his own business. He was, when he was a great, example for me growing up. He was very intelligent, articulate, um, and he was a generous person. And he had an honorary sense of humor. You know what I mean? And he was probably about the out of the people in my family, as far as drums go, yeah, he was probably the most supportive. Because he was the one helping me set up in our basement when I was 13. He was the one that was helping me set up so I could have guys down there to jam and stuff like that. Um, but he was a very fair and just man, and he was always quick to make sure I had a good perspective on things. If I ever got kind of too big for my britches or something like that, which as a kid that happens. He was, gentle but stern in his discipline. So basically, it just kind of, seeing someone, and actually, oddly enough, both my father and my grandfather were polio survivors, but it was my maternal grandfather. So I guess I grew up seeing people overcome things. Um, when I was little, my great grandmother, my grandfather's mother, lived with us. She was legally blind. She had lost her sight in the Spanish flu epidemic. Um, and she worked. She was a maid, and and then just walk through the house. She had a cane and then later a walker. You know what I mean? So I just grew up with these people that got polio. Hey, go to work. You know what I mean? You're blind. Well, hey, cook dinner. You know what I mean? These people, they didn't have time to to feel sorry for themselves. So I think maybe that was a bit of a you know something that helped and enabled me to find the right perspective when I needed to last year with my foot and stuff like that. So I just, yeah, it's kind of a similar experience. Um, so yeah, I would say that, my grandparents, my family, growing up, were good mentors. My very first music teacher, the grade school band director, Tom Rice was his name, is his name, I should say. I'm sorry. Um, he he was really old school too, and he was kind of stern. I mean, it wasn't like the movie Whiplash,
Yeah.
but he was, he was pretty stern. I mean, he would grab you by the arm or something like that. Um, but man, did he was impressive in all. He played like 40 instruments or something like that, and and to conduct a band of like 60, 70 kids or whatever, and to hear that one kid in the back that's not in tune or something like that, I always thought that was pretty impressive. Um, and and he expected you to have a good work ethic. Um, but he loved music, what I mean? So it was cool watching someone who was that talented, running a whole group, and we won a blue ribbon and won state, I think, when I was in eighth grade. So it showed me that hard work can pay off. Um, so yeah, so I would say, you know, musically and personally, those would probably be my biggest mentors. You know, I got a good group of friends, good group of buddies that we lean on each other when we need to, and stuff like that. So, um, a good support system helps. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So, because sometimes you're the one that's carrying the load, and other
Hmm.
times you got to hand it to somebody else. You know what I mean? So, I'm real lucky in that regard too. So,
Totally. I totally get it. It's I play hockey, and
yeah.
sometimes sometimes I have a good night and I'll score a couple of goals, and uh sometimes it'll be the only goals that we score, and then sometimes I don't score any goals, and the other team picks up. So I totally understand the support system. You have to have the support system everywhere you go. And it's crazy because I was just watching a video. This Marine was talking about his past, and his dad was not a good dad, very abusive, and he's like 20 something years old. So when you think of abusive dads, you think of maybe like baby boomers or like older generation.
Right.
You don't
Yeah.
really like hear too much about it today, but it still happens. So
Mm.
um that's another thing that I feel blessed about, is just not having to, my family is solid. Um Obviously, like any other family has its ups and downs as well, but I never had to deal with that kind of craziness. And it's just out there, like, so to me, hearing you name your mentors as people that are in your family, it's just like it's awesome to hear, and I just wish that everybody had that same story.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, it's easy to sit back and count your misfortunes, you know. But sometimes you just got to sit back and be like, wow, I mean, I'm really lucky, not everything goes right, it's never gonna, always go right. And I don't think any life well lived is without, strife, you know what I mean? So, but it's, it's how uh, that good that foundation, that support system, that part, um, of your life prepares you to get through those moments. Like good times don't last, but bad times don't either. I mean, there's always something else right around the corner. So
Yeah, yeah, totally. um and this one's kind of a funny one, but if you were, I don't know where you are in your career or anything, if you've ever had to manage people or whatnot, but if you did, or if you haven't, how would you fire somebody?
well, I suppose it would probably depend on why they're getting fired first. You know what I mean? But the way I figure it, any in most situations, just a little bit of empathy and respect is going to go a long way. So if I was going to fire someone, if I had to fire someone, I would just explain to them, this is why this is happening. This is why, the company or whatever has come to this decision. It's not, personal, and it doesn't reflect on your value. It's just that it's not working out here. you know so I would try to, like I said, be empathetic, be kind, but also, tell them in no uncertain terms, this is the way it is. I mean, so and hopefully, they could, at least take that and go forward in their own direction. So
Yeah, I think it kind of, that question kind of uh goes along with the thing that we've been talking about, where good times, bad times, right?
mm,
So I think that question, and it has two parts to it. One, uh how do you go about doing it? Two, how does the other person take it?
mm,
To me, how you go about doing it, um, it's kind of a question of like, do you care about burning bridges or not burning bridges? For me
right,
personally, I never like to burn a bridge, because you
right,
never know when that person might come around again. Um,
exactly,
and then for the person being fired, I feel like you can you can be the victim, and it's not my fault, it's the company's fault. Or
yeah,
you can be an adult about it and be like, okay, what can I learn from this? Why was I fired? Let's make myself better so that doesn't happen again.
exactly.
Cool. I wonder what makes you, either in a job setting, in a life setting, or maybe even in a drum setting. It might be an interesting answer. What makes you uncomfortable?
Ah, boy. I I don't know. That's an interesting question. What makes me uncomfortable? Ah, you know, if like if I'm playing drums, um, I don't mind uh an audience. I mean, obviously, I don't mind. I guess being the focus of attention, but I suppose in some settings, I wouldn't really want to be. Um, I don't. Uh, I know that, like, say, doing a gig with someone, and all of a sudden the arrangement changes. Um,
Yeah.
that I mean, at that point, I don't want to start thinking, oh, the audience is going to think this is my fault, or the audience is going to think this or that. Um, I just try and just kind of trust myself to be able to get back to it. But that can be like an awkward, 10 seconds or whatever when, you know, or somebody all of a sudden just totally, and I've done it before too, where all of a sudden it doesn't matter how well you know the song, for some reason you just go blank and you're like, what happens next? Um, that that reminds me of, like, being 10 years old and doing my first solo before judges, where I mean, you feel like your body's 200 degrees and stuff, and and the airways are real tight, but you know, like in like, okay, like, what would make me uncomfortable, like in a more public kind of setting? Uh, I would have to say, like, a blatant, like, disregard for another person's, identity or respect, or I mean, because I don't want to, get specific and say, well, racism makes me uncomfortable. Well, it should, but you know, all that, I feel like, is just not respecting someone else enough, or respecting them the way you would want respect. Um, sometimes that can get a little uncomfortable if there's someone there that just obviously doesn't respect other people. Um, I remember when I was involved in youth sports, sometimes you'd get a parent that just would start screaming at their kid in front of God and everybody. You know what I mean? And those are awkward moments because, it's their kid, so you don't want to step in, but holy cow, should someone step in? You know what I mean? So yeah, and like, even then, you could almost say that that's, uh, due to, like, a lack of respect as well. You know what I mean? Um, like if I saw somebody kick a dog, I mean, that would probably, be an uncomfortable moment, but those are, like, I guess those are more irritants than awkward, uncomfortable, So, yeah, like, what would really make me, I guess, uncomfortable is if, like, if a strange woman tried to come on to me or something like that. That would probably. So, um, yeah, that's an interesting question. That's an interesting question. So I hope I kind of answered it. Um,
Yeah, I don't think there's any wrong answers to these
yeah.
questions. um, it's more, I think, at least, if I was trying to hire you, uh, then maybe there might be a wrong or right answer. But
Mhm.
since these are just conversation questions, I don't think there's any wrong answer.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I wonder if I was trying to hire you, why would I even ask that question to begin with? Maybe in an office setting, I want to make sure that you're not uncomfortable with certain things in that office. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
um, I asked this. Who did I ask this to? I think I asked this to Rich West. What job do you think sounds glamorous but probably isn't?
Hmm. Well, probably like drum tech.
Yeah.
You know, uh, Yeah, well, I mean, again, like a lot of, because a lot of like the lower tier or musicians. I had a conversation recently with a guy who said that he remembered being like on tour and opening for some established people and sometimes just not getting paid, or seeing like a band that is on a national tour and has an album out or something, and they're making their own bologna sandwiches in
Mm.
the hotel room. Um, so sure, the big mega star has probably got a glamorous life, but the lower tiered, I don't think it's near as and in the entertainment industry as a whole, near as glamorous. And with speaking of, say, Hollywood, with the writers' strike and everything that's going on lately, um, and I'm not super informed, but it sounds like a lot of them are just wanting things like health insurance and stuff like that. Uh, so that could be another thing. People think, oh, you work in Hollywood, oh well, you're rich. Well, that may not be the case if the guy, is a set painter or something like that. So I bet pretty much any behind the scenes job is probably way less glamorous than what people would think, because that's where all the nitty gritty work gets done. That's the 90% of the iceberg. Um, so the 10% that gets shown to the world, so the people that get to be, the star of that 10%, they may have an easy time. But yeah, I would say, like I said, any behind the scenes job is probably, not as glamorous as a lot of people would think.
Yeah, trust me. From I'm from Los Angeles, and I have a lot of friends and family still back in LA, and anyone that I know that's in the entertainment industry, most of them have roommates.
Mhm.
Even they could be making a lot of money, and just because of the cost of living out there, you just
Yeah,
don't have the same type of life. Uh, if they were making the same amount of money and they were living where I'm living now in suburban Philadelphia, they could have their own house and two cars, the whole suburban
absolutely.
lifestyle. But
Yeah,
there's no Hollywood work out here. So if
right.
you want to be in Hollywood, you got to live in Hollywood and Hollywood prices. And yeah, I think you can get a one bedroom for like $2,000 a month, and that's just it's like
That's
insane.
crazy. Yeah, that is crazy. So,
So yeah, totally. That's exactly the answer that I would give to that question. Is like any stagehand or anyone just behind the people behind the people in Hollywood, and
right.
definitely long hours, um okay pay, but it's when you factor in the cost of living in LA, it's not enough.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, the same thing goes for like in New York or any big city, really. Like in New York, the restaurant industry is insane, and all the
Right.
chefs, they make all the money, but the bartenders. I when I was living in New York, one of my friends was a bartender, and she made $80,000 a year. But it might as well be like 40 or $30,000 a year, like in when you spread everything out. So
Right. Right.
and that's a hard job too, like dealing with socialite people and all that
No
stuff.
kidding. No kidding. Yeah, especially as the night goes on. So,
Yeah, got to be a babysitter almost.
yeah, yeah, babysitter, a therapist. Yeah. So,
Cool. Okay. Yeah, I think though those are the job related questions that I wanted to ask you. I think I'm going to move on to I know you're married and all that, but I have a section of speed dating questions that I want to ask. It's just a little bit of fun to find out some of the things that you're interested in. Um, are you a meat eater or a vegetarian?
I'm a meat eater. I'm an omnivore. I do like a good salad, but I don't know if I could be a vegetarian. I like vegetarian dishes, but I could definitely couldn't do it like full time.
What's your
So,
favorite vegetarian dish?
uh just like beans and rice. I'm half Mexican, so I've got a little bit of a, a predisposition, I suppose, to some things, but like, like red beans and rice, or um, yeah, it's just good,
It's funny that you brought up the racism thing a little bit ago, but I've always had this belief in my head that even though racism is wrong,
Mm.
there are definitely differences in race that aren't necessarily bad. They're not bad
Right,
at all,
right.
in fact. But to your point, being half Mexican and just having a magnetism towards certain foods, I'm exactly the same. I'm Japanese. Every couple of days or so, I just need to have a bowl of white rice. It's funny, but
It's
there's nothing wrong with it. It's just something inside. I can't explain it. It's just something inside of me that I need to have
well,
a bowl of rice.
exactly. It's like cultural, and it's been in the culture for hundreds of years and stuff like that, and not just your family, but every family. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I feel like it's almost it's like it's in your genes or something.
Yeah.
So you know.
What about your favorite meat dish?
Ah, man. You know, I guess you just can't beat a good steak, man. Give me a porterhouse steak, or and I'm good. So
How do you like it cooked?
medium to medium rare.
Okay, cool. Yep, same here. Every living out in Pennsylvania, there's a lot of Amish out here, and so I go
Mm.
to the Amish market every weekend, and their their chicken and their steak are just like to die for. So every week every Friday we have a steak dinner. They have these cuts. They're called New York strip ends,
Mm.
and I don't know why they're cheaper. They're like $15 a pound as
Mm.
opposed to the New Yorks, which are I think $21 a pound. But the strip ends are almost as marbled as a ribeye. So
Mm.
I
Cool.
I mean I hope people over here aren't get catching on to this, and I hope they don't go to the Amish market and get all my New York strip ends. But they're just as good as a ribeye cut. So
Nice.
every Friday we have a steak dinner, and yeah, we throw it onto the grill. The grill is like
Oh, yeah.
does it perfectly. It's like a mixture of medium rare and medium, and it's just like it's perfect. I love
Oh
it.
man, I know I'm getting hungry now. So
Cool. Okay, it's on the same topic of food. Do you like Pepsi or Coke?
ah, I used to be Pepsi, but anymore I kind of gone to Coke.
Okay, cool. Are you a soda drinker at all? Like, do you kind of
Um, I do like maybe a couple cans a day or something or whatever. If I go to a restaurant, I try to drink more water, and I probably drink way too much coffee. But
okay?
but I do like like I said, a couple sodas a day maybe.
Cool. Yeah, that kind of goes back to what we were talking about before about you know, uh living in the
Mm.
moment and all of that stuff. Have I guess the doctors have told me I have like a fatty liver disease, and they said
Okay.
that probably 60% of the population has it, and just nobody really knows about it. But
Yeah.
you're supposed to cut back on sugars and all that stuff. So, I don't drink, I don't really eat much candy or sweets, but I have to have my Coke. It's like the one thing.
Yeah.
So I'm like like it's probably the worst thing to do is drink soda, but you know it's so hard. Like if someone showed a graph and said, okay, if you cut soda, you're gonna add another 5 years to your life, then I'd probably be like, okay, I'm not gonna drink soda.
Right, right,
But
right.
there's no graph that explains things like that. And plus, a life without soda for me is just like not as good of a life. So I'm just gonna have my soda once in a while. I'm not gonna drink like a 6 pack a day or anything like that. But
Well, yeah, and I mean, and that kind of begs the question, like, would you rather live 80 miserable years or
exactly.
40 or 40 fun-filled years? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And so yeah, and just I mean, it's like you said, don't go, overboard with it, but yeah, enjoy it a little.
Yeah, I'm sensing a theme to this part too. It's just like live life and
Yeah,
right down the middle, like once in a while you go up, you go down, but as long as you're averaging the
absolutely.
middle.
Exactly. Not too high, not too low.
Yeah, totally. Okay, cool. I was gonna ask coffee or tea, but obviously it's coffee. Do you drink any tea?
Sometimes, well, when I was little, my grandma used to she used to make sun tea, put it out on the
Oh,
patio for the afternoon. Uh, and so it's every once in a while, I guess, I'll have like an iced tea or something like that. Never been much of a hot tea drinker, because like I said, it's always been coffee. Um, so yeah, not too much tea, but I have had like a green tea every once in a while. That's kind of cool. You know what I mean? Or if I'm at a restaurant or something, but yeah, I would say yeah, definitely way more coffee.
cool. Okay. Yeah, I'm my wife is a huge coffee drinker. I drink coffee definitely more than tea. Do you do just a straight up coffee? How do you take it? Do you do lattes or all that stuff?
You know what? I give me. I used to be like uh, in Pulp Fiction, the character Harvey Keitel's character, Mr. Wolf. When they go to give him coffee, he's like lots of cream, lots of sugar. So I used to say, "Give me a Mr. Wolf,"
Uh,
but then I became a type 2 diabetic. So now I'm like, lots of sweetener.
yeah.
But no, I like some cream and sweetener in it. Buddy of mine, gives me crap about it all the time because he drinks his, straight black, but and I can. I mean, if that's how I got to get my coffee, I can drink it black. But if I'm going to make it, for myself, though, I put some, sweet and creamy.
I love those types of questions that are so polarizing. Black coffee, coffee with sweetener. Here's another one. Does pineapple belong on pizza?
Yes.
Ah,
Uh,
nice.
uh, matter of fact, like, well, my older boy and I, every once in a while, we'll experiment because, like, pineapple and jalapeno is a pretty good combination.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
and of course, pineapple and ham, and then you get all three, and it's like, oh, wow. And then my younger son is like, that's disgusting. So that's a polarizing question for sure. Yeah. But no, I totally, yeah, I'll put pineapple on pizza, sure.
Cool. Yeah, I love me a Hawaiian pizza every once in
Oh,
a
yeah,
while.
definitely. Definitely.
Um, what is your favorite movie?
Ooh, boy. You know, gosh. Um, yeah, okay, deep, deep, deep questions. That's like a favorite song or a favorite, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Um, we could talk another 2 hours just about, favorite movies. So I'm gonna have to just say the Star Wars
Okay.
experience. Uh, what I mean? Sure, I've got my favorites out of all of them and stuff like that, but I would say my favorite media type thing, I guess, would be Star Wars.
Cool. Have you gone to Disney World at all?
I have not. My wife did when she was little, but no, I have not made it there, and I've heard that that's a really really awesome experience. So someday.
Cool.
So
Yeah. I've got my we take the kids down there at least once a year. And yeah, Hollywood Studios, man, they've got the whole Star Wars land. I don't know what it's called, but you walk into it and you literally feel like you're in the Star Wars movies and
sweet.
the way that they have it all set up. And even I think like at certain times of the day, if you get there and it's like cloudy, it's like almost like sort of rainy and it's like not not sunset yet, but kind of in the late afternoons, you got that orange tint. So it's almost like you're on what's the planet that Luke Skywalker's from?
Uh, Tatooine.
Tatooine, yeah. So it's got
Yeah,
that kind of atmosphere, and it's just like
that's awesome.
crazy.
That's
And
awesome.
then you can make your own droid, you can make your own lightsaber. It's pretty wild, man. You gotta
That's
if you're a
cool.
Star Wars fan, you gotta get down there.
I was gonna say, I hope I see the rest of Disneyland or Disney World.
Yeah, right.
So
But I think yeah, you could literally go down there and just stay there all day. So
yeah,
yeah, it's good to go. At least 3 or 4 days so you can go through all the parks.
right on. Awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Okay, Star Wars. Yeah, we really could talk for another 2 hours about just movies and stuff. Do you okay? Me personally, um, the original three is like way up here, and
Mhm.
everything else is like way down here.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say it's kind of, it almost has to be, I guess, obvious, but I don't want to insult anyone's intelligence or their opinion. But I would almost say, gosh, it almost has to be obvious that the original three, uh, Empire Strikes Back being, the absolute pinnacle. Um, that movie, that was, you know, that's like in cinematic history. I mean, I think, and you can find a list that says whatever you want it to, but I remember seeing a list many years ago where Darth Vader was like the third, biggest villain, behind Nurse Ratchet and the Wicked Witch of the West. Um, when he tells Luke that he's his father, that's, like in the top 10, like big, shocking moments in cinematic history. So it's I would know Star Wars is like a part of American culture or world culture. And even Japan, they love Star Wars. So but yeah, the original three, I don't think the feeling that you get, the vibe that you get, I don't think it's been successfully reproduced. It's kind of neat that a lot of people didn't like the prequels, but then when the sequels came out, now the prequels look better. Um, and me, I'm one of those people, I'm just like, like I explain to my kids because they'll complain about, this or that, and I'll tell them, look, we had to wait 3 years just to find out if Han survived being frozen in carbonite. And during that 3 years, there was nothing else. There was no shows. There was no this. There was no other. And then when Return of the Jedi came out, we were fully accepting and understanding that this is the last Star Wars we will ever have in our lives. So just living like that, and then the '90s, the late '90s, when they started talking about the prequels coming out, um, I'm like, I get it. Some of it's diluted, some of it's not done the way a lot of us would want, and I'm not gonna disagree with that maybe even Disney has kind of tried to turn it into like a cash crop kind of. Um, but man, I tell you what, when you just figure this is all it's ever going to be, and I'm 8 years old, anything now is all extra,
Yeah.
extra Star Wars. So I'm just like, you know what, I'm going to enjoy it all. Sure, I'm going to like some of it more than others, and I'll agree that yeah, the first three, I don't think you can, equal, let alone try and surpass. But that doesn't mean we can't have some really cool stuff. We can't still enjoy it. And it is neat when every once in a while something kind of, gets you and you kind of feel like you're 10 years old for even an instant, you know what I mean? So it's worth it.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. Uh, Besides Star Wars, I mean, okay, let's take it this angle. Do you have a favorite director?
Ooh. Um, man, oh boy. I well, you know what? Spielberg is, Jaws, I actually can't I can't like get in deep water, or I can't, if I can't see the bottom, I'm not getting in.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Uh I uh I saw Jaws when I was like really little, and and I'll to this day I fully believe that's why I can't get in the ocean now. You know what I mean? Or, I'm not even good at the deep end of a swimming pool. So and there's a whole culture, a whole following, to that movie, and deservedly so, because it's a masterpiece. But Spielberg is one of the most, if not the most famous director for a reason. Coppola, Francis Ford Coppola has put some really, really good stuff out. Uh, I mean, boy, Ridley Scott, Stanley Kubrick. I mean, boy, favorite director. I'm not sure if that's one, I would have to say like overall, if you want to look at an entire body of work, I guess just based on the number of hits, Spielberg would probably have to be by default, my favorite, just because of how many of my favorite movies he's made, I
Mm.
guess. But yeah, that what would be cool, would be like that Franken-drummer question, like,
Hmm.
what kind of give me five or six directors and so uh yeah, that would be neat too. But so yeah, I like I said, that's a tough one, but I would probably just have to say Spielberg overall, just by his body of work.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. Um, let's see. Have you traveled anywhere fun lately or at all?
Well, I live in the Midwest. So in order to have fun, you have to travel. uh, but no, actually, the wife and I just took the kids to the Wisconsin Dells a few weeks ago, and we stayed at this massive resort that had like three water parks built into it, and it was almost like a cruise ship on land because it had its own stores and had its own restaurants. And you walk into the place on Monday, you don't have to leave till Friday, and everything you could have wanted is in there. That was pretty cool. It's exhausting, but it was pretty cool. Um, and my the younger steps kid is 7, so I mean that keeps you young right there. Just
Yeah.
watching the world through a 7-year-old's eyes. You know what I mean? Um, and this is sheer excitement. They're unlocking the gate at 9 o'clock in the morning, and we had a room right by the entrance to the park, and so as they're unlocking the gate, he's putting his goggles on, ready to hop in. So it was pretty cool. It was fun. It was fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, I completely get it, man. It's like we go to Disney and it's the same thing. I don't care if we get there at 9 in the morning or at 12 in the afternoon or whatever, but the kids want to get there right when it opens up. So
Yeah,
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 that's awesome. Because I used to be like that too. They have a park called Magic Mountain back in Los Angeles, and
right. Okay.
I'd have to my mom would have to drop us off at 9 o'clock so we could get in line and be the first ones to get in through the gates at 10 o'clock. And she wouldn't pick me up till I think it was like 11 o'clock or so at night. And we were there the whole time. And
Yeah.
I look back and I'm like, what the heck could I possibly have been doing for that long of a time? I I think we went to Hershey Park a couple years ago. And after like 2 or 3 hours, I was like, all right, let's go home.
Yeah, yeah. Exactly, exactly. I was like, you know what? It'd be nice to come home and sit at home for a couple of days before I go back to work.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yep.
So that's cool. Do you have any plans to go anywhere in the near future?
Well, naturally, the conversation was, when are we going back to the Dells, to Wisconsin Dells? Um, the wife and I were also talking about maybe trying to go like on a camping trip somewhere. She's been to Yosemite. That's a place I'd like to go to. I've not been. So I probably nothing like in the near future. But like definitely like we would like to get a couple trips in next year. Um, our last year was pretty crazy, because like I had had my medical issues, and then I think we might have talked about this in the first interview, but she had um, a major surgery of her own, and so like our whole year was just like um, you know just trying to like survive and
Yeah,
get healthy and stuff like that. So we didn't really do anything. So this year, we were trying to kind of make up for it.
cool. Yeah. So with this whole what I think it's over $1 billion now, this lottery. If you won that
Oh
lottery,
yeah,
where would you go? Like, do you have any aspirations? If money was not an issue.
right. Um, Well, like I said, I always kind of wanted to see Yosemite. There's a lot of places in the United States I'd like to see. It'd be cool to go. I like to travel through Europe a little bit. It'd be neat to see, like say if you go to Italy and to see the Colosseum or something that's,
Mm.
you know, thousands of years old or something. My wife would like to go to Egypt and see, the pyramids and the Sphinx and stuff like that. Now we're talking many thousands of years old. To me, that's kind of surreal in itself. I, living in Illinois, the land of Lincoln, I only live like 2 hours from the Lincoln, the Presidential Library and Museum. And it's, fantastic. But when you walk through the Springfield area and you go through New Salem and you have his house and stuff like that, it's kind of weird walking through a room and just knowing that Abraham Lincoln walked through here too, even if it was 200 years ago or whatever. So it'd be cool to see some really, really old places like that. I mean, you know, Stonehenge would be neat to see just for the significance of the structure itself. I mean, again, like you said, you'll be there for 10 minutes and be like, okay, that was cool. But just to be able to see it. When I did go to Hollywood, uh, I wanted to make sure I got a picture of the Hollywood sign.
Mhm.
And my brother-in-law that we were living with, he's like, okay, there's a Ralph's. You want a picture of a Ralph's? You know what I mean? Because he lived there, so it was commonplace. But for me, those things were more significant. So where would I go? I'd go everywhere, man. I'd go as many places as I could. I'd even go visit, an Arctic place just to check it out. Probably wouldn't stay too long, but it'd be worth seeing.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I'd go as many places as I could.
Okay, would you I forgot what the price tag was, but would you go to space?
Ooh, and that's
Or
funny because
another thing, would you go down to
to the
the
Titanic.
Titanic?
It's odd that you bring that up because uh my wife and I got into that discussion. And it's I'm kind of I wouldn't say I'm a Titanic buff, but I've always been super, super fascinated with it. And being when I was little, I wanted to be an astronaut. I remember getting up like at 6 o'clock on a Saturday morning to watch a shuttle launch,
Mhm.
and or to sit there for 2 hours to watch it get scrubbed and then be disappointed. So I would have to say, what is, I mean, I'm not going to say it's smart, and I'm not going to say, everybody should do it, but I'd have to say, yeah, brother, I'd go, you know, the Titanic, I don't know if I just hop in something, but, you know, man, I tell you what, if James Cameron was there, I'd definitely go with.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd go into space, I mean, because if that were to be the end, and going with our theme of living life, man, you got to admit, that's a pretty, it's a pretty Spartan way to go. You know what I mean? Go with the glory.
Yeah, totally. I think I'm right there with you. I think those things aren't probably the smartest things to do, but with every reward there comes some risks. So
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
that's awesome. Cool. Yeah. Man, I wonder if like what about other things like skydiving or bungee jumping or
You know what? Yeah, I would try that too. That you know, it would probably be it might take me a couple of times, and I might end up going up for a trip and not coming back with but that's another thing I've always been kind of fascinated by skydiving. Just that weightless bird like it's got to be an interesting feeling. I work with a couple of guys that do it. Um, and I mean, it's quite the rush, and I can understand it. So I would, um, and it may sound crazy, but I almost rather go out into space first,
Mm.
than skydive. But yeah, I would give that a shot. Bungee jumping, whew, again, if the problem with bungee jumping is you usually do it over water. You know what I mean? So that'd be like an area where I might have a little concern with, but I'm sure I could be talked into that too. So,
What about like they've got these places, I think a lot of them are in China where you like scaling up the side of a mountain and it's just like basically a
like,
cliff.
well, you know what? I I guess I would have to, first of all, I'd probably have to assume that I'm not going to be dexterous enough to do that well anyways. Um, but I mean, I suppose if the safety, if there's like some safety devices or some kind of like protocol with harnesses and stuff like that. But man, like I don't know, heights can be kind of, um, that would make me uncomfortable.
There you
uh,
go.
there's something that would definitely make me uncomfortable. And that would be the hard part about like say skydiving or something like that is just being at that kind of height. But again, after my experiences, I mean, I try to do things that can be intimidating. I mean, because yeah, the reward that you can get from uh, a successful endeavor is worth every bit of you know the apprehension, dealing with that. Because when you conquer a fear, that's an empowering feeling, but man, boy, some of them are, like I said, like, climbing up the side of a building or something like that, or, those people that, you know, skydive or not skydive, but they do where they run from one building to another and they
Oh,
don't,
yeah.
I mean,
Parkour or Parker or whatever, however you say it.
yeah, that might be a little, and again, I'd probably get halfway up, and so that might be a little beyond my, you know, my scope. But yeah, I mean, uh, I figure like if I learned enough about it, or if I found, um, if I went through some training and was confident in the safety devices, there's a lot of things I would try. Um, but scuba diving, that probably isn't one.
Uh,
You know what I mean? So yeah, so I guess if it's water related, it's probably going to have to be a no.
well, okay. So let me ask you this: has there been anything that you've tried, like endeavor wise, or even tried to learn something or whatever, and to try to get that type of reward, and then you get there, and it's kind of disappointing or a letdown, or not worth what you thought it was going to be?
Um, well, I mean, I guess, well, I mean, maybe not something like an entire endeavor, but like aspects of it. Uh, like I guess just like when I went to, and it's been quite a while, but when I went to school and I thought, I mean, I'm gonna come out of here and then I'm gonna get right into the industry and I'm gonna be a
Mm-hmm.
pro and then I'm gonna be famous. You know what I mean? And then it's all then it's gonna be that glamorous lifestyle that a 20-something-year-old kid thought it was. Um, and then getting out into so that it's a competitive industry. You know what I mean? And some of the seeing some of the, I guess you could say, some of the backstabbing or some of the
Mm-hmm.
shady activity that some people did. You know, some of that was disappointing that it wasn't. it wasn't the brotherhood or the familial feeling like, like what the drum tuber community, is. I kind of expected like, yes, we're all in this together, or what I mean. And at the time, it was a little bit more like, people did what they had to do to succeed, even if that meant, you know, making sure someone else didn't. So that was, I guess, that was a little bit disappointing for me. But then, I mean, other aspects of it were really rewarding. Some of the people I did meet, because you know, for every one of the shadier types of people, there was five more you know, uh, that were legit. They were more like, more of a like mind, with me, more about the music, or maybe their passion was in the creativity, and maybe less the girls and the money. I
Hmm.
mean, so yeah.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, I'm very, very similar experience. I went to school for writing for entertainment,
Mhm.
and I went to Full
Oh, great.
Sail. So I don't know if you're familiar with Full Sail, but they're like kind of like an entertainment school. It's I like the way that it's the setup is pretty awesome. You're going to school with other writers. You're going to school with people that are trying to learn film, how to direct and edit and produce and all that stuff. And then you've got people that are going for music, learning how to record music and produce music. You got people that are learning how to make games, produce games, and all. So everyone can feed off everyone else. If you're smart and you go to that school and you are like, okay, I'm going to learn whatever I'm going to learn, but I'm also going to network with all these other people and all these other
Right, right,
programs. The theory is when you all graduate and you get into you start trying to get into the industry, um, maybe a guy that's trying to design a game, he gets funding from a game company, but he needs to build his team. He needs a writer, he needs a sound designer, he needs a cinematographer, he needs all. He's got friends that went to the same school, and you kind of just
right,
like help each other. The team, like sometimes you hold the weight, sometimes you are so trying to like get support from other people. So the way that it's set up is like really cool. And so when I went to that school, I tried to become friends with as many people as possible. And I was involved with a bunch of different projects, but I think every single one of them fell apart at some level or other because other people go on to different projects, or maybe they get hired by
right.
a big company and they don't have any more time to do independent projects and stuff like that. And and then getting into the actual writing world is it's that'd probably be one of my answers as to a job that sounds glamorous but is totally not glamorous, especially when you enter at the very bottom. You're basically uh you're not writing at all. You're doing a little bit of editing, I guess, where you're correcting grammar or punctuation or whatever. um
Right.
so yeah, but like the more you work at it, obviously the higher you go and whatnot. um but yeah, it's just like the same thing. I thought I was gonna hop in and I was gonna have like writing jobs and whatnot, and then when it didn't happen, and now I've got this really expensive piece of paper and I don't do any writing at all.
Right. Yeah, and that is a very common story too,
Yeah.
especially with artistic pursuits, endeavors.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, it's almost like, yeah, like, if you hit it big, and yeah, you can get really, really, rich and famous, and but it's like a 1 in a billion, chance, really. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's I don't know. I could probably talk about that for hours and hours and hours too. This might be like a 10-part series we got going on.
Yeah, you know what? Just we'll get together once a month. You know?
Yeah. Okay. Do you watch or play any sports?
I
Oh wait, you coach sports, right? That's we
I
talked
I
about that in part one.
I did, yeah. My older boy was, real big into baseball, and so coached him for boy, it was like I don't know, it's like 16 years or something. It was all the way through. Then I was on the board of directors for our local youth league. So I did that, and then I had some teams where I didn't have a kid on the team and stuff like that. And then my younger one, I coached him in football for a while. Now, when I was little, I really, really enjoyed baseball. Um, but because I'm a bigger guy, I'm barrel chested, I'm not exactly, like I definitely couldn't play basketball because I'm not made to start and stop, and you know,
Mhm.
what I mean. So football was what I ended up. I mean, as far as playing, that's what I was a little bit better at. Um, and you know, I was always fascinated with hockey, but there around here, like you would have to travel like an hour to, what I mean, and back in the '80s, if 80s parents weren't traveling an hour for.
Yeah.
So what I mean, but and over the past few years, I haven't been watching as much as baseball as I used to be. I was my family was I was like third generation Cubs fan, like when they won the division in 1984, my grandma was crying and stuff like that. What I mean? So just like beans and rice, there was really not much of a choice on what kind of baseball team I was going to like. Um, but I'd say over the past handful of years, I've kind of maybe started to become a little bit more passionate about football. Again, I kind of was decided that I was going to be a Chicago Bears fan. Um, and I still am. Um, did watch the Blackhawks for, they were fun for about 10 years. But I tell you what, about 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, I got divorced. And the period after that was when I kind of, it seems like my pursuits were, going to work and, taking care of like, my dogs and going to work again. And then, the things you have to do when you're in that kind of position, you work long hours, what I mean, to make sure all the ends are met. Um, and then some of the corners some of the fat you trim or some of the corners you cut are like cable TV or, what I mean? So then you stop, having the accessibility that you did, what I mean? So I just kind of, veered away from sports a bit, but um, I still I still got to have like my wife is kind of sometimes she's not always totally happy about it, but Sundays are football days, you know what I mean? So I do still really love some football, um, but as far as playing, that's a tough one. I did get together for some Sandlot games, and it seemed like every time I did, I broke a finger or
Oh,
I
geez.
separated the shoulder, what I mean, or twisted an ankle. So I was like, I'll just be an armchair quarterback now.
Yeah.
So
Nice. Okay. Yeah, that's I guess that's not nice. It's kind of
well,
kind of sad.
but I'm okay with it though. I'm okay with it though. I
That's
did.
that's good. That's good. Um, do you have a favorite book?
Ooh, boy. Well, I tell you, like growing up, I really loved Stephen King. I had like a lot of hardcover Stephen King books and stuff like that. The Uncut Stand, The Stand was my favorite for a really long time. Um, but then now, at this point in time, I've been reading the Game of Thrones books, and those are really, really, really good, books too. So that might be like favorite movie. It might be kind of hard to nail one down. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? But maybe a few authors.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I mean, I went through a stage where I tried to read some classics. So I read like, Last of the Mohicans,
Mhm.
um, you know, just to say, I even tried to read Mein Kampf, and I couldn't finish it. I mean, but just to say, it's a pretty well known book, and that's a controversial book. Uh, but I wanted just to know what it's about. And like I said, I got halfway through. I was like, all right, this is not worth it. You know what I mean? Um, but yeah, I really, really did like The Stand. The Game of Thrones books are all fantastic. You know what I mean? So yeah, I read I try to read a lot of like if there's a movie that's an adaptation, I try and read the book if I can. Um, so like Jaws is an example. One of the rare times where I felt the movie was better than the book. Um, but I read the Harry Potter books; those are really good. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's hard to say. I always did really like to read as much as I can. I don't read as much as I would like to, you know what I mean? But definitely try to. Um, I had one, but I lost it. The Hannibal series by Thomas Harris,
Hmm.
Silent for the Lambs, and that was a really good series of books. So seems like I mean, this will be like my favorite book for a while, and then this will be my favorite book for a while. You know what I mean? So like I said, like movies, it's really hard to pick one. But those are some of the highlights.
Cool. All right. Let's see. Oh, this is probably one of my favorite questions. Do you have any? And if so, what is your biggest pet peeve?
Pet peeve. I've always kind of been big on like mutual respect and stuff like that. So I would have to say like being condescended to, or
Hmm.
being, you know, I mean, that's a real big peeve of mine. Now I realize if I try to approach, the president of the United States, I mean, I'm going to get tackled, or if I try and jump on stage while Metallica is playing, someone's going to laugh me off. I get that, I mean, I'm not saying that I deserve, to be able to go wherever I want. But when you meet someone, or if you feel like, yeah, I've got a right to be here. I feel like everybody, deserves a certain kind of respect. You know what I mean? Um, so yeah, I would just have to say like being dismissed, or being, condescended to, or just being treated like a lesser person is probably a big peeve of mine. So
Yeah, yeah, that happens a lot in life too. It's kind
it
of
does.
unfortunate.
It does.
Yeah, that's definitely a good pet peeve to have. Hmm, yeah, that's another one. Like we could probably dissect that and go over it.
Ab- Absolutely, because I was already starting to think, oh, I could go that direction with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, what about so I don't know if this is the right way to ask this question, but um I think I'll ask more like what is your type of sense of humor? Like, are you a
Mhm.
12-year-old boy and you laugh at fart jokes, or do you like more of a dry humor?
You know, it can waver a little bit, I suppose, depending on the environment or who I'm with. Um, I would say overall, I have a drier sense of humor, kind of a sarcastic sense of humor, and oftentimes kind of dark. Um, but you know, if I'm with like five of my buddies though, then sometimes you laugh at a fart joke. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh, but I would say yeah, definitely overall, I've got kind of a drier, I like, I would say a darker kind of sense of humor, because, again, it can all be over so quick. Why take yourself too seriously? You know what I mean? So, and, you got to be able to laugh at yourself. You know what I mean? So, I mean, obviously, sometimes it's time to be serious, or I mean, but, you know, laugh at your own misfortune a little bit, it kind of helps you get through it. So,
Totally, totally, it totally helps me get through it. I I've had more, I guess, downs than ups in my years. Um, amazingly, the I guess more recent point of my life is a lot more ups. But if I look at my life as a whole, I've definitely had a lot more downs, and um, it's just it's so therapeutic to look back and just laugh at yourself and be like, "Well, I was such an idiot."
oh man, yeah, you do. I don't know how many times, I have to tell myself, just forget it. You know, what I mean, that was 20 years ago, or
Yeah,
that person probably doesn't even remember that, or what I mean. But yeah, there's so many times where I'm like, man, like you said, what an idiot, or why did you say that, or why did you make that decision? You know what I mean? But yeah, I think I came across a quote that was like, you never know if it's a right decision or not. By the time you find out, it's too late. So you
yeah,
always just try to make the best decision. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
So
Yeah, yeah, it'd be a nice exercise to do if everyone has like almost zero time to do anything recreational, but it'd be a good recreational exercise to go back and try to relive, at least key decisions that you've made and see if you made the right decision
right.
or right for you at the time. And, even the right decision could be different depending on the circumstances.
Well, and then even then, if it wasn't the right decision, that could lead to a certain chain of events that ends up being the best decision.
Yep, that
Because
too.
I mean, like my wife and I, we had actually met many many years ago. Um, and then didn't then we went off and had different marriages and different families, and sometimes she'll be like, what if we would have just did this when we first met all those years ago, and I'm like, oh, it's great, and cool to think about it, but would we be here now? You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So I gotta say that even the bad decisions were the right decisions, because they led me here. You know what I mean? And uh, I honestly feel, especially with the attitude I try and carry about it, this is the best life has ever been. So what it'd be hard for me to say I would change things, you know, because then I might not end up where I'm at right now. And where I'm at right now is really where I want to be. So
Dude, you are speaking my language. We are on the same
right on.
plane. I'm looking out
Awesome.
the window and like there's all these different planes flying all over the place. And then I look around and I see you like right on the same
Yeah.
plane.
It's like, hey. Awesome. That's cool.
Cool. Let's see. I want to see if I have got one more question for you. Ah, okay. This is a great one to end with. If you could invite anyone, dead or alive, to dinner, who would it be?
Oh boy. Wow, that's a cool question. That's a really cool question. Ah, man, boy. So yeah, so there could be like, yeah, maybe a family member or maybe a famous, you know what I mean? Anyone to dinner. Well, it'd be really cool to have a conversation with Abraham Lincoln. Uh, but I'd probably have to say it'd be cool to have dinner with my grandparents one more time,
Oh,
you
that's
know,
awesome. Yeah.
and I'd probably have to, invite them both. But it would be cool because, yeah, there's so many times I wish my grandpa died when I was 20. So I was just getting into manhood. And I don't know how many times I'm like, damn, I wish I would have asked him more about, what was it like during World War II? Or, you know what I mean? Or what was it like during the 60s? Or I just wish I would have asked him more questions, and I spent a lot of time with him. I asked him a lot of questions, but, so yeah, no, it'd be cool. It'd be cool to, have dinner with him one more time. And, you know, on a side note, once again, hitting with our theme, uh, I do have to say that, personally, when he did pass away, I got to spend some time alone with him right at the end, and I got to tell him all those things that you would want to tell someone important to you, knowing that the end is near. Um, and right then, I decided that I don't want to ever let anybody go without having this conversation. You know what I mean? So sometimes I try to, like I said, life is short. So, I don't want to leave anybody wondering, how I felt about him, you know. I mean, looking back, it's one of those things that it was an important event, a big event, and, it shaped me. So it was another one of those events that, I couldn't say I would change because, it was, what led me here. So,
Got it. Yeah. That's pretty profound because I've had a few people that have been really close to me pass away where I wasn't able to have those closing comments and whatnot. Most recently I told you I went to LA for a funeral
mhm,
for a friend who died of cancer, and it was so quick that I didn't have a chance to really say goodbye or any of that stuff. And I was actually in LA right before he started feeling symptoms, and he was playing a hockey game. And at first, I was going to go to his hockey game, but then I started to feel sick. I didn't want to, get him sick or anything like that. In hindsight, I should have gone, but you never know that kind of
absolutely,
thing. Um,
absolutely.
but yeah, it would have been nice to at least see him one more time before he shuffled off, but that didn't end up happening. I don't know if you know or not. With regard to my uncle, he was a pro drummer, taught me a lot of stuff, but he also passed away. Um, when I was in 1998, so I was still like a youngin behind the drums, and I had so many questions, and wasn't able to say goodbye to him or ask all the questions that I wanted. I've gone the rest of my drumming career, always wondering if I'm doing good enough in his eyes and stuff like that. So yeah, man,
Yeah.
to be able to, you know, say what you needed to say to your grandpa, that's a blessing. And so with all of that, I don't want to, it would be really cool to have your own story on your own YouTube. And I don't want to take away any kind of content that you might put in the future. But I've always said that I started this channel because um, I wanted to make sort of like a record of myself so that when I have kids, they
Right.
can
Right.
see how cool I am.
Yeah.
And then grandkids can see how cool I am. And just like tell, like, I have a series. Sorry to like self promote, but I have a series, a playlist called Friday Rewind, where every week for like 20 or so weeks, I would like go back and talk about a band that I was in or a song that I had played, and the experience of what that song was behind. So I play a song, it might be from a band from that I was in and recorded, and I would kind of expand upon that song, and for 26 weeks. So it's kind of like a chronicle of my drumming career that my kids and grandkids and whoever else would want to like watch could go back
Yeah,
and see
yeah.
who I was.
Awesome.
So there wouldn't be that thing, well, oh, I wish I would have said this to him or that to him in case I'm like in a car accident tomorrow or something like that. So all that to ask you, is there anything that you would like to close out with to kind of say, this is who I am. If I die tomorrow, um, I want to leave everybody with this.
Um,
Not to be macabre or anything like that, but
no, no, no.
just to have it
That's
out there.
cool. That's cool. No, you know what? I wasn't any different from anybody else. I did my best. I wanted the same things. I wanted security and happiness. I wanted to feel fulfilled. I wanted to feel like my time here mattered. You know what I mean? But it wasn't. It would never have been worth it to me to hurt someone or take something from someone else to make that happen. Um, definitely have my flaws. Definitely have my flaws, but uh, I mean, I just really, really would want the best for our species. You know what I mean? It's too bad that we can't get along better. It's too bad that I think it was Oppenheimer that said that war is the great arbiter of history. Um, you know what I mean? And if I could, because, well, when I was younger, uh, and I was going to be a famous rock star, and I was going to, make millions and millions of dollars, I wanted to be one of those people that, tried to be a positive change. You know what I mean? I was like, well, I'll donate money every year. I'll donate money to this, to that. You know what I mean? All these charities, stuff like that. I really want to, change the world. You know what I mean? And that's a young man's gambit. You know what I mean? Changing the world is, or saving it for that matter. You know what I mean? So at this point in time, you know, I realize that that's just not, no one can do that. No one can, probably ever do it. So the world that I can save or the world that I can change is much, much smaller. You know what I mean? So, I guess if I was gonna blink out and I had something I wanted to tell people, and that's the thing is, you know, find the balance because the balance is key. Believe in yourself because somebody has got to. Uh, be brave because the biggest rewards come from things that it takes courage to do. Be humble because at the end of the day, we're all going to end up in one place. Uh, and enjoy it. Don't get so far into your work that you're not enjoying it, and don't enjoy things so much that you're not getting your work done. So again, I guess it all comes back to balance.
Yeah.
So
Cool, man. Yeah, it's been an amazing uh almost 4 hours now of us chit chatting back and forth, and I
it's been
hope
awesome.
yeah, I hope the people that are watching um first of all found it entertaining as I imagine you and I, thought
Oh
it
yeah,
was. But I also hope that people get a better sense of who we are, especially you, and go to your channel and check out your drumming and hopefully subscribe and make that channel bigger, like you expect it to be in 5 years. So,
5 years. Yeah,
so yeah, Mike, thank you so much for coming on and
thank
chatting
you.
up and uh, you know, we might end up doing this 10-part series. Who knows?
You know what, it's an absolute blast. And you're an awesome human being. So I could definitely, and I don't think either one of us has any problem talking about stuff. So I feel like, you know, we could, yeah. I mean, I'm always game for part 3, part 4, or part 30. You know what I mean? Uh, always up for it. Always up for it. So I appreciate it. Thank you so very much.
Cool. I mean, you seem like you're sort of like into history, American history. You know, I'm 20 minutes from Philly, the Liberty Bell and all that. So if your family ever comes out here,
You know what? I've got a brother that lives in starts with a B. It's not too far from Philly. I was actually just there right in the middle of COVID, so we couldn't leave his house really. But I actually have relatives out there, so definitely, I would definitely love to meet in person. That'd be cool.
cool. Yeah, come
Or
down to the studio and do a drum cover here.
that'd be cool. Awesome. We'll do it. We'll do a duet.
Nice. Yeah. All right. Well, there you go, everybody. It's Mike Drop Drum Covers. Go over there, check out his channel, and dude, we'll be talking again soon, man.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All righty, take care.
You too, brother.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified every time I put out a new video. Also, check out my website, www.kmkandrum.com, KMKANDrum.com. And if you really, really want, head on over to my Patreon, link in the description. I've got a ton of benefits for anyone who becomes a patron, a lot of cool extra content that you can't find here on YouTube. And also, check out these cool videos that I've done in the past, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.